what's right with me as I'm looking at this, I see that it's a problem and I really want it to be resolved.
Hello and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Taryn McCarthy, and today is going to be a great day. It really is, because I have a phenomenal guest to introduce to you. I cannot wait for you to meet this wonderful, wonderful human being. And before I start, I just want to say thank you for joining us on our last episode when we dove into beliefs and how beliefs can really launch you or really hold you back. So thank you for having an open mindset when it comes to beliefs. Next week, I'm very excited to be talking to you about letting go of holding too tight. Oh, it's so good. I love that title. I can't wait to chat more with you about what that means to me. But without further ado, I want to introduce to you this wonderful emotional freedom technique practitioner, EFT, also known as tapping. She's a life coach, and I love the name of her brand, Unstuck, getting unstuck. I can't wait to dive into this with this incredible woman and mom. Welcome. Join me in welcoming Lindsay Lewis. Welcome, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm laughing still because we had a little bit of a journey to make this happen today. And I'm so grateful to you for being here and for making the effort to get here. But it's true. It's such an example of what we go through every day.
Yeah. Yep.
I know. Well, please tell us a little bit about your journey and who you are.
Well, it's hard without saying where I'm at right this second, because kind of like you and I were talking about, we listen to certain people, I think, and we go, well, it looks so good. It looks so good on your end. It's easy for you to be happy because your life is happy, and it's right. Like, and this business of happiness thing is so cool. And you really caught me when you showed up in my life, because I thought, how do I really, what I do is we're really dealing with hard emotions, just uncomfortable, hard emotions that we would all really rather just kind of set aside and not deal with. And so, but it's like, but we want more joy and we want more happiness. Yeah. And so we're told by like memes and positive affirmations, to just choose joy and live, love, laugh, and, be in the moment. And it's those things like sound really good, but if you don't feel those things to be true in your spirit, they're not, we can't just want them into existence. And I always say it's like a cup that's full of mud, and someone's like, I need fresh water. And they just keep pouring fresh water into that cup. And it's like, but there's still those remnants, you just can't get that mud, like that gunk out until you really scrape it out, and then maybe rinse it out and pour it out, and then keep doing that until it looks like it's clean, but you probably need to add some soap. And so then you can really get that cup clear. And so that's what tapping does, is it actually, we're diving into the negative, into the really hard, into the yucky stuff, so that we're clearing out a space within ourselves, because we can only hold so much. And then once that space is opened, now all the cliches and all the positive affirmations, even the ones that we wished felt true but didn't, they actually now have a place to fall into. And so it allows a lot of the old goodness that you've wished could be true to fall in that moment. And it's so fascinating. And so I was thinking about the fight to get here with you today. And what finally came to me, because it's weird, I struggled with chronic anxiety for 20 years and I was on medication and it didn't help. And so the last few days, and I really do pride myself now in, I don't feel anxious. I don't have those shakes, that shaking, debilitating, overwhelming. And the last few days it struck after the hardest 2 years of my life. And I thought, why is it hitting me now? And I know there's things in my life that should be making me very, very angry, things that should be really, really upsetting. Whereas usually anxiety is actually nothing to our obvious eye looks like we should be upset or anxious, but our subconscious is actually recalling something old and wanting us to run from it. And so what I realized was, man, I'm really getting back in touch with those feelings of that debilitating anxiety, because I have real evidence of why I should feel this way, but I really don't want that visceral physical response in my body. And that's what I help people with, is once we reduce that physical visceral response, which is cortisol,
Huh.
It's an oversecretion of cortisol. We're really actually physically with tapping, lowering that cortisol level physically, which then makes you naturally feel more calm. Now, when you think about the stressful issue, you have clarity because the blood's in your brain instead of an oversecretion of cortisol. And so I was thinking, I was like, man, now feeling this anxiety again, I'm realizing, I can't ever promise anybody an anxiety-free life, even though I felt anxiety free despite the anxieties. I'm really here to say, hey, we don't need to live with anxiety. We don't need to live anxious. But we can live, like really live life with anxieties.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we can live life with anxieties. I'm still living life. The things that are so hard and so pressing right now, which I totally know part of the reason it's all happening is because I'm being challenged right now to just anchor this joy and happiness in. And not everything is going well for us, but those moments where there's joy and happiness, because of the work I've done and because of tapping, I don't just know it's a joyful moment. I can feel it deep down in my spirit. And when you can feel that feeling is real instead of just knowing it, it grows just like trauma grows and pain grows and fear grows,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And
And you're in the
supports
business of
you.
growing it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, totally. Holds
Mm,
you over. Yeah.
mm.
Because we don't only, they say you can't hold two things at the same time. I do. I think we can totally know that there's grief and then also totally know that there's joy. I
Yes.
I believe that.
Oh, I think
So,
that's so true. I think every mom would agree with that. Any mom knows that you can hold grief and joy in the same hand. Yeah, I love you've mentioned so many great things already, Lindsay. I love the recognition that even though someone keeps telling you you need to be happy, this is how you're
mhm,
happy, just say this meme, this mantra over and over. Sometimes that expectation can feel so heavy
mhm,
because you feel every day, why do I keep waking up with this unfulfilled feeling? I
right.
keep practicing, I keep trying, I keep saying the mantra, live, life, laugh. I keep saying it. Why do I still not feel that enormous elation that I'm
Mhm,
promising myself? So I really love that you validated that for people, that it's not just about saying the meme over and over again, and really
yeah.
digging in and uncluttering and clearing and getting unstuck from all those old things that have been packing in there. That is such a beautiful description of why and how tapping works.
Oh, totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's hard to believe. It looks weird, and that's what
Yeah.
everyone says right away. It looks weird, and it does, and you're tapping on your face, and so and nobody wants to look weird, especially women. We're so self-conscious. We don't want to look weird, but it's like, man, this looks as weird as it does work,
Wow.
and so there's ways to do it without people knowing you're even tapping in public, but it
Wow.
does work. And it works when other things haven't. It
Mhm.
works when talk therapy maybe hasn't. It works
Mhm.
when medicating yourself hasn't.
Mm.
It just works. And the
Wow.
reason it works is because it's actually having a physiological response on your body.
Mm.
And it just like, if you have a headache and you take a Motrin for it, like that's a physiological response. When you eat fruits and vegetables and exercise, you have a physiological response on your body. It changes your biology, right? And the more you introduce those healthy things, the more it's going to affect you in the long term. And this is one of those things that not only does it actually make a difference in the moment that you're doing it, it really does lower your cortisol. There's some incredible research studies,
Wow.
and it lowers your cortisol so well. But as your cortisol drops, your immunoglobulins, your immune system actually goes up.
Hmm.
So the cortisol is dropping, and also dopamine is going up.
Wow.
And so it's really interesting because there are tests that show that this is actually physically happening inside your body when you're tapping. But what's better than that is that the results fall upon you. So in the moment, you might feel this unusual. Normally, when I think about this, I feel really stressed or maybe shaking. For some reason, I'm still thinking about this thing, but I just feel relaxed while I'm thinking about it, or I'm less sensitive to it. maybe more neutralized to it. It's really interesting because the result falls upon you. I'm not actually telling anyone how to feel. But then the next time they're faced with the thing, the result falls upon them. It's not like cognitive therapy where I say, now the next time you're in front of a piece of chocolate cake, I'm going to want you to push that away. It's really that when next time they're in front of that chocolate cake, they can look at it and actually not have a desire to reach for it.
Wow.
It's that the pull, that charge and that trigger is gone, because what we're actually doing is communicating with a part of your subconscious
Wow.
that says something is not safe. And so we're really going in and saying, you know what, even though this thing hasn't felt safe for me for whatever reason, whether I know what it is or not, right here in this moment, we're anchoring into that current, being mindful of this exact present moment and saying, I am safe with this problem. And so it immediately, just with the physiological response, with the electromagnetic signal being sent to your hypothalamus, is you really are calming that fight or flight. And now you don't need to run or hide. All of a sudden you have all the blood in your brain and you can think clearly about this thing you normally just run from for no reason. Wow. So it really has this impact that is so hard to imagine, especially when so many other things haven't felt like they worked, you know?
Yes.
We can know things will work. We can know we want change, but like this, you feel it now in the moment and later.
You said something very similar. I read it somewhere where you said you didn't realize how stuck you were until you were free. I think that's something many people might be able to relate to, where, sometimes when you're not feeling well, and then, or you have a sensitivity to something you're eating and you give it up and you realize, wow, I feel great. For years, I was living with this gluten sensitivity or dairy intolerance, and I had no idea I could feel so good. And that's what I thought of when I read that about you, that all of a sudden you just felt so much freedom, which you didn't even realize you had access to before you found tapping.
And that's a great point. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of people feel like they have to know what the problem is in order to get help.
Oh, interesting.
So, you go into, and I'm not dissing therapists. I loved my therapist and my, we use therapists. Okay. Mm-hmm. But there is a part of talking about something that your subconscious just doesn't know if what you're talking about, like an old upset or an old trauma, if you're actually talking about it and remembering it, or if it's actually happening again. And so if it was so traumatic the first time, then recalling it now is actually can rewire that trauma, which is why PTSD seems to actually get worse over time for people instead of better, is because they're rewiring the trauma rather than unwiring it. Tapping not only unwires the problem, but you don't have to know what it is that you're in that you can't see. So, for example, I had somebody who I asked her, what she was coming to me for. And she said, to be honest with you, I don't know what it is that I'm feeling. I just know I need help. And usually when we go to get help, we need to present somebody with, here's the problem, right? Tell me how to fix it. Oftentimes people don't know what the problem is because their subconscious has closed the information portal of the time that they were abused.
Wow.
Your subconscious really wants to keep you alive, not emotionally stable. And so somebody might not know why they're having intimacy issues, or emotionally eating issues, or picking fights with their boyfriend all the time. They don't know because their subconscious actually is protecting them from that core memory.
Absolutely.
And so with this, somebody can come to me and say, I just don't know. I don't know. And that can feel like a lot of pressure too, to have to know. And so where we start always is right where someone's at. And I'll always start them with, even though I don't know what the problem is. And the second most important piece to tapping, and the reason it works, is to accept yourself completely in that moment. And that's a really challenging thing, but tapping works when you're challenged. In fact, it works better when you're being challenged or triggered. And so a lot of people say, well, I can't accept myself, especially with the problem.
Yeah.
And I might have someone say that. So long as I have this problem, I can't accept myself. But actually what we're accepting is, I'm a human experiencing a human emotion, and I can accept that I'm very uncomfortable and very tired of something that is is overwhelming me. And so we're actually accepting our human response to a human problem. Now, can you accept yourself? Yeah, because the only other option you have is, I kind of like how I feel about the problem,
Yeah. Owning it.
which is a problem that a lot of people have. Is I really
Absolutely.
like being sick because I get a lot of attention,
Yeah.
and so it's one of those things where people can really come and say, I don't know what the problem is. And I'm going to start them right there with, I don't even know. But in this moment, right, I'm anchored right here, and I totally and completely love and accept and support myself. Even if someone doesn't feel like that's true, we really work on why that doesn't feel true. And as we work through that, we're chipping away at that muddy gunk, right? Until they go, oh, I get it now. Yeah. Like I actually put myself here and asked for help. I can accept that about myself.
Wow.
I can accept that I showed up for myself today. And so it's just boom, all of a sudden a light bulb goes on. And then people might start having memories. Okay, they might have memories of the trauma. They might have memories of a certain conversation. The thing is, then people go, well, I don't really know if I want to remember those things. Don't worry, because when you're in this safe place where your subconscious isn't in control and you are, your body is actually not going to allow you to remember anything that's not safe, because it's only safe things welcome when you're in the space that tapping provides. So you don't actually have to worry about something coming up that isn't safe for you yet. And so things will come up as they're safe to, as it's necessary, but that's why it's so rapid and so gentle, because it works so quickly, even when you don't know what it's working on. And then it's gentle because you can say, I just don't want to remember it. I just want to heal from it. Oh, baby, you've got it. It doesn't feel safe to remember it, but right here, right now in this moment, I am totally and completely open to healing, because I think I might be worth it. And that right there can actually heal a trauma. And you may never have to look at it.
Wow.
Yes.
You make it sound incredible, Lindsay. You
It
really do.
is.
I mean, you mentioned trauma and eating disorders and negative self-talk and limiting yourself. You mentioned all those things. Is there anything tapping can't do? I mean, is there anything that you found that really tapping, or maybe a personality who this just won't work for?
Well, there's going to be a lot of different opinions on that out there.
Interesting.
And people who are really passionate about this work, I would say across the board, are going to say no. There's
Hmm.
not anything it won't work for. But you've got to take that with a grain of salt, because I've got girls who have severe concussions. This can be a little bit overstimulating for somebody who's had a brain injury, right?
Wow.
And a trauma. So if you just dive right in tapping with that person, it might not help them, because it might not be the modality they need right now. So
Interesting.
for those girls, maybe they need some deep rest and deep, what's it called? Working on their, sorry, I'm missing the word, but just deep rest, right?
Mhm.
To reset their, central nervous system.
Mhm.
But if she says, I'm just so tired of not finding help with my concussion,
Mm.
now we have something to tap on.
Interesting.
And because if the tapping's a little stimulating, what I might have her do is really just hold her hand over a point, take a really deep breath in through her nose. And I might remind her that we're just honoring how tired she is. And so in that case, that's when a specialist comes in, because now we're not tapping and using a lot of words. We're actually really allowing her to just feel that fatigue and honor that she's tired, and just allow her space to breathe. And in that case, it's going to help her. I've seen it help
Mm.
people just go, the concussion's not fixed yet, but actually, like, I really honor how exhausted this has made me. It's not my fault. I didn't ask for it. And so then she might have more permission. And you said something in the beginning that's, why do I feel this way? Why can't I
Mm.
just feel happy? Well, that's putting a lot of blame on ourselves. And as
Mm.
long as we blame ourselves and we label us the problem, we're really at war internally on a subconscious level with ourselves. And remember,
Absolutely.
our subconscious has already labeled something else as unsafe. The kid who pushed us on the playground when we were a kid, the chocolate cake. And so now if we say, I'm the problem, I'm the problem, I'm the problem, what am I doing wrong? Your subconscious is like, oh, you're the problem. Let's go ahead and just run away from you. And so then now you have this internal war where your subconscious really is trying to get you to eliminate yourself. There's so much more to that, but that's why the acceptance piece is huge, to say, you know what if just for a second I look at the problem, but what if I'm not the problem? What if what's right with me is I'm looking at this, I see that it's a problem and I really want it to be resolved. I really want something better than this. I want goodness in the situation. And I'm realizing that I can't control that other person. So it's actually kind of what's, and I save that for, special moments with people, but I want to give it to you because you're so special. What if it's what's right with you?
Wow.
Right? What if you wrestling with, why can't I figure this out? What if that's right with you? Because what you really want is something so much better, but this is an exterior problem with a person or a thing, right? Or a boss or a COVID season that really you're not the problem, but it is creating a problem for you. And so we also have to separate, are you the problem or is something creating a problem? And are you actually the solution, and how to get there, or to say, you know what, I'm not the solution. So I release myself from being the cure. So I would say there's always going to be something it can help with.
Yeah.
Always.
And it sounds like it's really centered on compassion.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. Self-compassion.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, self-acceptance leads to self-compassion. It's the same as, a parent who is abusive. I've got a lot of people work on their parents who are abusive. And what's really incredible is it's almost every time, and you can look through so many different case studies. What happens almost across the board is if somebody is addressing that, like, my mom abused me, or my dad abused me. And if I'm triggering anyone right now, go ahead and just put your hand over your heart and take a deep breath in through your nose and blow it out so it's not rewired. And what happens is, as she processes through all of the layers to that, all of a sudden they go, oh my gosh, my mom hit me twice, but her parents both beat her on occasion. I can't even imagine what it would have been like to be my mom, who was getting it from both her parents. My mom actually did a lot better. Wow. So it creates compassion.
Wow.
It doesn't excuse what happened.
Yeah.
It doesn't excuse it, but it certainly helps you to create compassion for yourself. And then also that person who is, their behaviors have caused so much subconscious and unconscious anger and resentment and bitterness,
Wow. That's fascinating.
Because we have to be released from holding on to those things. That's what's in that muddy cup.
Yeah. And by refocusing on those 2 times that your mom hit you, you're reliving it. What I thought you were going to say is, she hit me twice, but I've hit myself so many times by reliving and reliving and reliving that.
And that's correct also.
Yeah.
Because it's a constant, as we don't even know, our brain rewires this stuff. And so she's feeling as though she was abused her whole life and hit her whole life, because that's how it feels. But then this kind of takes what you feel to be true and what you know to be true, because they can be very different, and really brings them into alignment. And broken people do break things.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so that's one reason why healing is hard too, is because then it's like, oh my gosh, I've been hitting my kids. See, she won't even acknowledge she'd been hitting her own kids because she was so focused on the pain her mom caused. But now it takes a lot of strength and power as you move through this to actually turn towards your children and say, I am so sorry. Because what did she ever need from her mom, right? Or her dad or whoever, right? So it's a beautiful generational cure, because you're just going through these generations before you and then these generations after you, and you're the one who's just severing it and stopping it.
Wow, that's a beautiful image. Yeah. Lindsay, how did you come to tapping? How did you find it?
I was very stuck.
Talk to me, sister. Tell me what happened.
I was very stuck.
Yeah.
I will tell you. It's cool. And I don't keep a lot of things short, but I'm doing my best. So I was in a place where I had been anxious for so long and had been broken. and people broke me, and I in turn was breaking people and relationships. And I didn't realize it at the time. I knew I was wrestling, and I knew I was guilty, but I didn't know how to quit. You don't just know how to quit. People tell you like, oh, you're smoking and you want to just quit. Like we can just quit. We're controlled. 85% of what we do in a day is our subconscious behavior. So I was just in a really stuck place, and I was struggling emotionally, physically, really wanting to get better and heal and restore. But the problem is I didn't know what that looked like. And that good therapist said, what you're wanting right now is peace and balance, but you've never in your life experienced peace or balance. Maybe when I was a child, I had some really good childhood years. Unlike a lot of people, my childhood was actually my safest place up until I was about 9 or 13. And so I was wanting something I'd never felt. And so that's another reason why it's hard. We all want peace. Have you ever felt it? How do you have to feel that to create it sometimes, right? So anyway, I was just in a hard place. And there was one woman who was kind of a mentor, and she didn't give up on me, but she was really good at giving me space. And something had happened about 3 years prior. I lost a friend, and the situation surrounding it was devastating. It was just one of the most emotionally, physically, mentally devastating ways that you could experience breakage and loss. And when I was driving down the street, if I saw an emblem of her car, the same emblem, I would have to actually pull over because I would be so overwhelmed with grief and sadness. And I'm not a big crier. And so I'm not saying that like crying's bad. I'm not, and crying's good. I want my girls to cry. I love, if I can't cry and I need to, I call someone so I can talk to them, and then I'll start crying. So it's a good thing. And I was so debilitated by this. And so like I told you earlier, what was happening that I didn't know is that every time I just saw that emblem on that car, it was my subconscious's way of saying, this isn't safe. That memory of her isn't safe. And so that alarm that goes off in us that we don't even know why it's going off sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And so I could see my kids being cute and having fun, and I wanted to be in that moment, but there was this blanket that it was like you said, I didn't even realize how heavy this blanket of fog was until it was gone. And I couldn't really be in that. I couldn't feel the joy. I couldn't feel it. And I did go to a natural doctor, and she said I actually had no serotonin, like none. It was done. I had no, and that's, you're happy, right? And so this coach, friend, mentor called me, and she's like, hey, she's always on a mission to help women heal emotionally, physically, spiritually. And she's like, hey, I'm trying this new like tapping thing. Do you want to be my guinea pig? And I was like, yeah, sure. So she helped me with a few things, but what was so amazing, and this was the moment that changed everything. And this is exactly how tapping works for people who want an idea of how it really works. She said, tell me the story. And I told her the story, and in telling it, my body is just trembling and my heart's racing, and there's this heaviness, and I sounded like, wow, one of just like, and physically loud and overwhelming. And my words between my angst was, it's just so sad and I can't do anything about it. And there just was so much pain in that. And she's like, okay, just tap. And I was even thinking like, I don't know what this is. This is so weird. Why is she having me do this? And I'm a woman of faith. Like it's hard to say Christian in this world anymore, because some Christians have given us some bad names, but I follow Jesus. I want to live how he did and love like he did. And if you go into church, you don't see people tapping on themselves or doing energy healing. And so it was really interesting, because I'm like, what are we doing? This is so weird. This is so
self-judgment.
This is weird. We don't do this, and so I was feeling that was weird. And then and so she said, tell me again. And I told her again, and there was a little less body reaction. And then I tapped one more round, which is just, that was one round, what I just did from your head to your bra strap. And she said, tell me again. And I was like, it's sad. It's sad. And now so you hear the anger, right?
Wow.
Like this, it's
Yes.
sad. And so, so she had me take a deep breath, blow it out. And then last time I said, you know what? It's so sad. And there is nothing I can do about it. And so, and that whole thing took, I think, less than 4 minutes. Cause I remember looking at the clock and I couldn't believe that the words didn't change.
Wow.
My words didn't change. It's so sad. And there's nothing I can do about it. Like that angst of like, I have to fix this. I'm the problem. I can't do any and my body and my head hurt and everything was at that point in my life. If you touched me, my skin hurt. I was in so much pain. And in 4 minutes, I said, it's so sad. And there's nothing I can do about it. And I felt it. And I felt that shaking stopped and my body was calm and I could take a deep breath. I wasn't crying. And all of a sudden, I just felt this calm and that like, oh my gosh, there's nothing I can do about it. And all of a sudden I was free.
Wow.
Like I was free. There's nothing I can do about it is so debilitating sometimes, but that rewired the memory. And what happened because of how it works is it took it from this trauma file of it's happening all over and all over again and over again. And it pulled it up and it pulled it out into a safety file in my brain, which is what REM sleep is. Okay. And basically now this memory is safe. It's safe here. We've addressed it. We've addressed the emotions behind it. It is sad, but I'm not debilitated with the frequency and the emotion of sadness anymore, right? Because emotions are a frequency in your body. And so now all of a sudden it's like, yeah, it's sad, but like there's nothing I can do about it. I saw my kids differently. I connected with my husband differently.
Wow.
I never had to pull over again for seeing that emblem. I'm telling you the story and I can honestly go, yeah, you know what? It sucks. It
Mm.
sucks, but like that's life. And, it's never going to happen again, and so because it won't happen again. And also too, another thing is that women might feel like, if she had asked me how long ago does it feel like this happened, I would have said yesterday. I remember it like yesterday when
Yeah.
people say that. And when we were done in those 4 minutes, it felt like 3 years ago. It actually felt as far away as it actually was, which then is where the stupid cliche comes in, time heals all wounds, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't. And so
No.
this tool actually helps you to create the space between today and when something actually happened so that you get the healing and the restoration that space would have or could have created. So that was the moment that I was like, okay, women need this.
Yeah.
Women need this. And I'm going to make sure that that any woman in my path knows how to use her fingertips because I'm free. And I was free. I was so free from that my husband said, there's no way you're doing this well, this fast. You need to go to our therapist and tell her whatever it is that you're hiding because this is crazy.
Oh my gosh.
He thought I was like everything's fine.
Yeah.
Everything's fine.
You were covering
And
it.
I was like, no, babe, it worked. Like it's and he said, I love you and I'm in this with you, but there's no way. There's no way. And so I went to my therapist and I explained everything to her. And then she had to help us both, and explain that it worked. And so I quit my job and I just dove straight into my certification. And this is what I've been doing ever since.
That's
So
miraculous.
I don't know if that was short enough for you.
That was
It
beautiful.
was so fascinating. It was so fascinating. And that's it. You can't make that stuff up. You can't. That's why when people are like, calm down. And you're like, I can't, right? Because there's an oversecretion of cortisol in your body.
Yeah.
You can't just calm down. And when there's an oversecretion, you have no blood in your brain. It's the reason why we're acting like a child because we don't have the blood in our brain.
And we've been living at this higher level of cortisol secretion for the past year and a half or a year, where we just live in this kind of what we feel like is normal and it's not. And that's where that whole analogy of like the straw that breaks the camel's back, you just need a little bit of anxiety and suddenly you feel completely pushed over the edge. And just like, what is it, that frog that's in boiling water, they don't know they're in boiling water because the temperature's slowly rising. I think we're all living in that place right now. None of us
Yeah.
really realize the amount of stress and cortisol that is just flushing our system daily.
And you're right. And that's why then you've got maintenance tapping, right? I'm talking about trauma, but we're talking about maintenance. I've got a group that goes every single Wednesday, 9 o'clock in the morning. And it's basically maintenance tapping, right? We're just making sure everyone gets an hour a week. We're breathing, we're tapping, all kinds of crazy stuff comes up. It's safe to share or not. But that maintenance, because what we learn is that we do store stuff up because, something upsets us and we're like, I don't really know how to address that problem. And then this upset, I don't really know how to address that. And so what we're really doing is we're kind of like suppressing our voice and it's pent up energy. And so then that straw does break the camel's back. And now we lash out. Guess what? Now we're the problem again.
Yeah.
See, it's this vicious cycle. And so what this does, it really just helps you. This is such a great tool too for people who want to meditate, but just don't know how to get calm enough, is this can tap you into a meditation state where you can really be calm and really think and be present with your thoughts and your emotions. And this is mindfulness. One of the misconceptions of mindfulness is that we have to have an empty brain and be blissful.
Right.
Mindfulness is like, yeah, I feel really upset right now about this thing, but I'm going to be mindful that that's where I'm at right now. And that's what tapping allows. So, and one thing I really wanted to share with you specifically because of the happiness thing, because it's funny because it's like, this is kind of a daunting subject because we're talking about trauma and negativity, but that's what people hate sometimes is they're like, I just don't want to be so negative. It's like, well, guess what? It's all stuck in there anyway. So we got to get it out. And Dawson Church is an outstanding researcher he's outstanding. He's one of my favorite. I learned under him, but he did a study and it was specifically focused on PTSD because that's one of those things that I think that we kind of think is incurable because people get so much worse. And it was a meta-analysis, which is like a randomized controlled trial. And they looked specifically at PTSD was one of the things, and the markers for these trials are 2, 5, and 8. And the effects that tapping had on people with PTSD was at a 27.
Wow.
So on the scale of 2 to 8, the people who had PTSD, their results it was effective at a 27. Now, I don't really know what that means. I just know that was the result. So that's huge, right?
Yeah.
That was totally unexpected. Yeah. But then he said, okay, but to be free of PTSD, to no longer have PTSD is great. But are you happy? Are you joyful? Are you living, or do you just not have PTSD? So to eliminate anxiety and depression with tapping, one of the trials was a week of tapping, I think some amount of time every single day. Cortisol decreased on average 37% as a baseline throughout their week.
Wow.
That week and after. So 37% drop in cortisol over time after that. And then an increase of dopamine and immunoglobulins was 113% increase, which is crazy. That's our immune system, right?
Wow.
And also serotonin, right? Which is, you love serotonin because you love happiness.
Yes.
And so he was saying, why just use this to eliminate depression and anxiety? Can't we're exchanging the cortisol for these hormones that we actually really want to be higher inside our bodies. Can't we also just use this to be happier too? Can't we use it to be more joyful too? Yeah. And so, yes, we can. And so we can actually feel, but you have to feel the feeling, to eliminate stress in your body with this, you have to feel the stress and really tap on it to get joy into your body. Something has to spark, is eliminating a lot of the crud, whether it's there or not. Really, actually, all of a sudden you're like, wait, I'm actually happier about this, right? Wow. I'm actually more joyful. I actually am more present with my children. Well, then when I was more present with my children, didn't I naturally have more joy inside of me growing and more happiness growing? And so then now you can start focusing on the positive moments, the joyful moments, feel that, and tap and breathe and tap and breathe and start growing that within you. So we do want to get rid of the junk, but we're not just going to hit a baseline of now I'm just a normal person without depression. What if I can be as happy as Taryn,
and
right?
build up on that? That's incredible.
And there's limiting beliefs in there too. Like, it wouldn't be fair to be so happy when everyone else is so sad. Deal with that.
Yeah.
I got one life to live and life's hard and I know it and I don't have to prove it to anybody. I need these bursts of happiness
I
because
know
they're
it.
going to hold me over in the hard times.
I know
Right?
all those limiting beliefs do come back in, even when you felt that freedom.
Yeah.
You do get those whispers again. Okay,
Oh
so
yeah.
for all of our listeners who actually have never seen tapping, and many of my audience watches this podcast on YouTube, but some of my audience also listens to it. Can you describe for us what you've been doing as you've been talking? So can you just describe for us what tapping is?
I can. So I could even ask people who really want to just do a round of it.
Let's do it.
Okay.
I'm going to follow
And
you.
so okay. And so it always, well, and see, there's a setup statement, but let's save that. So go ahead, everyone, just take a deep breath in through your nose, blow it out through your your mouth. I forget words. In through your nose, out through your mouth. It's always nice to notice any tension you're holding in your body is a good starting point. And then you can just start tapping the point inside your eyebrow. So just either one of your eyebrows, it doesn't matter which eyebrow, just inside one of your eyebrows with 2 fingers. And then you move to the outside of your eye. And we're just tapping really gently. And a really easy thing is we always just can, if you're feeling a little stress, you just focus on the stress. But if you're like, man, this was so exciting to learn something new, really feel that excitement in your body. I just carved out time to listen to Taryn's podcast, and she introduced me to this like crazy thing that gives me some hope for myself or my sister or my aunt or my daughter. And then underneath your eye,
Mhm.
just under your pupil, and you just tap there real gently. And then under your nose. And then take another breath in through your nose, blow it out through your mouth, because we are really moving energy and frequency through our body. And sometimes we forget to breathe. And then on your chin, it's kind of just under your bottom lip is really where it is for listeners. And then go ahead and take your whole hand and place it in the center of your chest and just tap gently with your whole hand. And the reason for that is because those points are hard to find. So we just use our whole hand. For women, the next point is on underneath your armpit where your bra strap would be. Men probably know where a bra strap is, underneath your armpit. And we're just tapping real gently with your fingertips. And then the very last point is the top of your head. And you're just going to tap right in the center on the very top. And that, my friends, was just one round. And one round, when you're moving real slow and gentle, could take 2 minutes, really. But also, if you're really mad, you might tap through it in 10 seconds and just really clear that energy. And then inside your eyebrow starts another round. And then you can take another deep breath in through your nose. You can blow it out through your mouth. And then this was a really quick round for anyone who's never done it. But if you were focusing on a stress in your body or something uncomfortable in your body, you might want to check back in on it and notice what changed. If you had a headache in the back of your head, it might have moved to the front. If you had a neck ache, maybe it shifted. If you felt like your shoulders were crunchy, maybe they're less crunchy. But two, if it feels like worse, that's okay, because you actually started working on something that needs to be unraveled. So the sensation feeling worse isn't bad. So then go to the outside of your eye. And then if you were focusing on excitement or joy or happiness, go ahead and just notice what you notice about it. You might remember a certain person that pops up out of nowhere, something that's going to bring you joy this afternoon. The really beautiful thing is we talked about self-acceptance and compassion, and then you can tap underneath your eye. What's really incredible is it's a journey of trusting yourself. That when something comes up, that it's safe to look at it, to ask what it has to teach you, to be gentle with yourself with the learning process, and then choose to release it when you're ready. And then underneath your nose, and you can take another deep breath in through your nose. And sometimes it's hard to choose to relax, but this changes your biology, physiologically. And as we change that biology, it's a long-term thing. And so even though my life has been so stressful and so hard, right here, right now, in this moment, I am choosing joy. it's safe to reduce my cortisol on your chin. It's safe to rest and relax. I can get back to work later. I can stress out about family later. But right here in this moment, this is my moment to anchor into the current moment. And then on your chin and on your collarbone, just for this second, I'm present. And I accept myself and how I feel. And then take another deep breath and blow it out. And you learn to trust yourself with what comes up. I had a girl once, she said, this yellow chair keeps flying at me out of nowhere. We wrote it down and we were able to figure out what that yellow chair meant in relation to her childhood trauma. Yep. Yep. And then on your bra strap, and then the top of your head. And you can take one more deep breath in through your nose and you can blow it out. And you just always check in with where you're at now compared to where you were before. And it really is a journey, but it will guide you so significantly, quick, in my opinion, and also more gently. And so everyone can take a cleansing deep breath in through their nose and blow it out. And you might even want to just keep tapping, because you might be feeling something. And, you asked a great question earlier about, is there anything it doesn't work with? I love, like, can it hurt you?
Yeah. Good
Yeah,
question.
it can hurt you.
Interesting.
It can hurt you. It can hurt you because if you start feeling that like, ugh, like this thing hurt, like, remember when I was like just such a mess over that sadness with my friend, if my coach had said, you know what, let's just stop here, she would have left me at a really heightened emotional state.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it wouldn't have helped me, it would have really hurt because I wouldn't have finished getting that resolve from that heightened surge. And so, I always say, you gotta really tap and breathe through those hardest moments, because the hardest moments are only hard. They're not bad. They're not hurting you at all. They're actually pushing this thing through you very rapidly that has been pestering you for decades. And so you could hurt yourself by saying, this doesn't feel good, I'm going to quit here.
When you're in that heightened state of awareness. Yes.
Yeah, maybe get really excited about that heightened state of awareness, because this is where the work is done. And even though this is hard, I choose to be so excited to see what freedom feels like on the other side of it. Wow. You just keep tapping and breathing. So
that, I'm sure, is where it really helps to have a supportive coach along the way, someone who can recognize that and guide you and give you that courage and support that you need to see it through to the other side. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
So cool.
It's true. I've got a girl, last night, she said, I tap all the time by myself. I've never tapped with a practitioner or in a group. And she goes, now that I'm tapping in this group, it's like really amazing how different it is. And it is, it's just so different in a group. It's different one-on-one. I always teach my girls how to tap on their own so that they can. But yeah, every way of doing it is so special and so different.
So cool. So cool. Oh, Lindsay, you are so amazing. You are so,
thanks, you are too.
You could just tell the passion that you have for this and the enormous good that you're putting out there and how much you've really helped people. And I can just feel from you how rewarding that is for you as well. And I can just feel this purpose that you have in your life. I love it.
It is. Thank you. And same as you. It's just, I always say, like, there's just one woman who doesn't know there's something that'll help. There's one woman. And so I say every single day, it's for that one woman, who I haven't found yet or who hasn't found me, but it's just for that one, because I was that one. And it was, see, that makes me emotional, but like, that's an emotional state of gratitude. Like, I was so stuck, like I was broken and I just was breaking everything, and to be in a place where I restored, and then now have been even though life's been really chaotic, I've been sure and stable in the chaos. There was a time recently, I lost my dad. I took care of him and he died in my home, and that was hard. Very recently, we moved a week later, and then my son disappeared, and we actually didn't know if he was dead or alive for 2 days.
Oh,
and it's vulnerable to share that here because he's sensitive to me sharing. But that's the real stuff I dealt with back to back to back. And it was amazing to be in those real hard moments. And my heart was very still. Wow. My heart was still and my body was calm. And what that actually that was from the years of tapping through so many of those emotions, is that those emotions undealt with kind of like a snowball effect, where something today feels a lot bigger than it
Wow.
really is.
Yes.
When you really work through that, like I had, today's problem was only today's problem, and it was only as big as today's problem. And with the blood being in my brain, I didn't even have to tap, because I'd done so much work, because it holds you over so perfectly. Very traumatic moments for me, and I was able to think clearly.
Wow.
That's the difference, is we can actually think clearly in moments of high stress and high anxiety. We just don't know how to yet. And as we change the physiology in our body and actually communicate to our brain, it's really okay. I am safe even in this hard moment. So I've seen more than ever the benefits of it on the long term, is that I'm still calm and stable and sturdy, even when everything going on outside isn't.
Wow. That's incredible.
It's an incredible thing. And so that one woman,
Yeah.
it's that one woman who's like, I just don't know how to get out of this. This might be your saving grace tool.
That's
And there's
amazing.
practitioners, there's no shortage of practitioners to work with.
Well,
Truly.
where can we find you, Lindsay? How can my audience find you? Because I think so many people will have just connected and related to so much of what you've said. So if people are trying to find your resources and your support, how can we find you?
Yes, and they can absolutely trust me to direct them elsewhere if I'm not the right fit for them,
There you
because
go.
I want people to feel very safe and supported, and I have a great team and a great network, and I know lots of practitioners. So probably Instagram might be best.
Cool.
Is tapping underscore unstuck. Instagram might be best. And otherwise, email.
There you go. There you go. We'll put all of your links in the show notes. So if anybody's interested, they can find you there. And I'd love to know, you mentioned Dawson Church. If you'll give us a link to Dawson Church as well, then we'd love to. We'll put that in the show notes too, just because you spoke so highly of him.
He's so fun for the research, because you got a lot of people who are like, give me the science.
Exactly.
And so he's great, and he also is this man who just radiates this happiness like you do, and so he's fun to listen to, and he wrote some great books. So I can give you some of his resources too, for sure. And another incredible resource is the tappingsolution.com. Okay. And I love them because their work is very accessible for people who just kind of want to try it out, in the privacy of their own home. You can kind of listen to their tapping routines, but it's just, it's so incredible. It's just such an incredible resource for people because I'm all about just get this into people's hands, however they'll do it. Right. But find me, talk to me, ask me questions. And I love to give answers and resources, but the tapping solution is an outstanding resource. And then one more thing I want to say too, is for faith-filled listeners, people who might be of the Christian faith, especially can and do struggle sometimes with the foundations of this, and if it falls in line with their beliefs. And I can help that make sense. But also Sherry Rice Smith. I want to make sure I mention Sherry Rice Smith, EFTforchristians.org, I believe. She is a retired medical nurse. And so she understands the body and the brain and the mind, but she also understands faith. And she's just so good at connecting the two and helping it make sense for people.
Wow. Thank you for that resource. That's really cool. Another great, I think, where this could really have a huge amount of impact right now is with our teenagers, our high schoolers who are really struggling all around us, just having such a hard time in this COVID era. I can imagine this being an enormous source of support for them.
It is. If you have a teenager, connect with me. Let's find something that works.
Cool.
It's so hard to get these kids connected with this tool, but you know what? Every one of my clients was one of these kids. And if we can, the thing is with tapping with kids, they tap for a couple minutes and they shift and they're done because their life experience isn't as much. And so their trauma isn't as deep. And so if we could get these kids tapping now, this season of their life isn't going to have that negative charge and impact that we're so concerned that it will have on them. Man, if anybody wants to try to head something up for teenagers. I'm sure there's people out there.
Yeah, I could
But really,
imagine that being enormously impactful,
it is.
Yeah.
It is. And, I'm all about like, how do we make this happen now and fast? You got a
Yeah.
teenager, you have them grab 10 of their friends,
Yeah.
hit me up, and we'll just throw a group together, once a week or every other week for your teenager, their 10 friends, and let's just make it happen, because
So
it's
cool.
changing teenagers' lives and giving them so much freedom and hope in times that they otherwise wouldn't have.
And tools for their future selves as well. That's so cool. All right. I have my final 3 questions for you, please, Lindsay.
I can do
you can do this. I think I know the answer already, but I want to hear it from your standpoint. What is your superpower, Lindsay?
Oh, my superpower. That's a really hard question. It shouldn't be that hard.
It is. Isn't it fascinating how difficult it can be?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can have several, but I just want one of them. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. But
the pressure. See, my superpower is just tapping when things get really stressful,
Yeah.
and breathing. You know, encouraging others from a place of self-encouragement, because if it goes back, like, we want to love, and if that, like, you can't love anyone unless you love yourself. And so
Yes.
really, I don't know that it's a superpower, but it's definitely something that's super crucial to me in the work that I do. Is I have to practice every single thing that I preach. I have to practice loving myself in the hardest moments in a way that nobody else ever can or will. I have to practice trusting myself in those hardest moments, because I really, really want to help equip women to love themselves in a way nobody else ever can for them, and to trust themselves. And so maybe that's it, because it doesn't come easy for me. Superpower to me almost feels like it's effortless and easy. I would say it's like super, super hard to have that power.
Wow, that's beautiful. Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah, and I think you're
I don't
speaking
know, what's
to
my
every
superpower?
woman. I can tell you several superpowers, but it only counts if you can come up with it for yourself.
Well, and I kind of said before too, what I realized the last few days is I help women, and by example,
Yeah.
not to live life anxious, right? Not to live life anxious, but to live life, comma, with anxieties.
Yeah, because it's
With
going to
stress.
happen.
Like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
You can't
let's live life here, because we will never eliminate the problems from our lives. People think we can or will or something. We're going to have seasons of calm, but to live life even with the storm, and even with the stress, and even with the anxieties, is to keep living.
Yeah. And that is our human form. I mean, that's what we're here for, to feel the feels, to feel all the feelings, the good and the bad. Yeah. All right. So, second question, Lindsay, what is your definition of happiness?
Contentment. Yeah. I think it's more of a contentment, like really being in a moment, anchoring into moments. Moments are very hard to grab. Very hard to grab.
And they're everything.
Oh, too much time spent thinking about the past is just depression. And we spend so much time thinking about the future. That's anxiety. Like, you want to be happy. You don't have time if that's where your head is. And so I think it's in the moment.
I love it.
In the moment. Yeah.
And lastly, if all of your work that you have online, all of your videos that you've put out there, and I've seen some incredible ones of you tapping to gain extra mobility, and to heal out all these other anxieties, and all that work were to disappear, what is one piece of advice that you could leave us with? Something to take all those women that you care so passionately about. If you could give them one final inspirational message, what would that be?
There's no place that you could be living in emotionally that is so debilitating that you can't climb out of it. And an action step would be when anything is hard, when you feel a hard feeling, to close your eyes, to take a deep breath in through your nose and press and hold the point under your eyes. If that's all anyone has, because in that moment, you might not have a friend to call. You might be in bed at 2 a.m. alone. And when hard things hit, it's just us and the hard thing. It's just us and the hard thing. And so I think our breath, we're still alive, right? Our breath, but holding and pressing the point underneath your eye is, they're all connected to negative and positive emotions, acupuncture points, connected to organs in your body. And that one right there holds fear. And so I go directly to it.
Wow.
You just hold and press that point and breathe. And if that's all you remember to do, yep, exactly like that. You hold and you press it and you breathe, because those are those moments of, I don't know what I'm feeling. This is too hard. I can't keep going. When you're too tired, when you get that hard phone call, even in a moment of joy or happiness, and you're like, man, this is so good, I don't want it to go. This is just, if all you ever remember is it's just you. I'm not saying we're dependent only on ourselves. When I say trust yourself, I think that we should always have something bigger than us to trust, which teaches us to trust ourselves. But it's just you and your fingertips in a moment, sometimes with your feeling, and our feelings can be so confusing. And so that's what it would be, is to just close your eyes, press and hold, take a deep breath, blow it out, and always check back in with yourself. Don't forget how you felt, and ask yourself really, instead of being pushed by your feelings, to be really drawn by those desires, the desires that you have, and just to be present as you watch it unfold, or else you might miss the progress.
Oh my gosh. So good. So good. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
You are just such a beautiful soul.
Thank you. So are you.
Beauty just radiates out of you and right across the airwaves here. So thank you for everything. And thank you for sharing all of your truths and your strengths with us here today. I appreciate you.
Thank you for bringing this.
Yes.
I'm a connector. That was probably should have been my superpower. I'm a
There you go.
connector. So,
oh, well, that's good to know.
I'm a connector. I'm going to connect you with tapping, and you with this, and you connected me with your audience. And so what, it's a love language of mine, is that when I connect people all day long with tools and people and things, to be connected is really cool, to have somebody connect me with somebody else.
Awesome.
So that's really special. So that was a gift for me today.
Well,
thank you.
And thank you so much to all of you for joining us today. This has just been incredible. And I'm so grateful to have met this wonderful woman. And I'm sure you are too. Please join us again next time. And until then, today is going to be a great day. Bye-bye.